Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today's video is actually going to be a commission that I did. It was for my sister-in-law, and it was really good to be able to work on a commission. It was interesting to be able to have a different end goal in mind, not something that I came up with, but something that had to be specific and it had to be what someone else had thought up. So it was it was a really good experience. Like I said, it helped me get a little better of an understanding on how to make sure that I'm working towards a different final goal than maybe something that I'm used to. And I had specific reference to work from, and yeah, it was just it really was actually very pleasant. I've noticed that a lot of times when, like, especially during school, when I have an assignment that has a lot of, or not necessarily a lot, but you get an assignment where there's rules that you have to follow. Those are the times that I feel the most creative and the most excited, because I want to problem solve and I want to find a way to do that assignment the best that I can with those conditions. So yeah, like I said, it was really interesting to be able to have those restrictions and those requirements for this piece, and then for me to be able to look at that and think, okay, how can I make a piece that I'm happy with, that's something that I would create with those restrictions in mind. So the prompt for this piece is that it was going to be a comic book cover with my brother as this superhero. So before I even started sketching it all, I went straight to looking up how actual graphic novels and comic book covers looked like, because I really wanted to be able to study their composition and graphic elements that they might have, and generally just kind of the flow that all these covers would have, or just different ways that those issues are solved compositionally. So I did really want to be able to find some of those elements and include that in my piece. That way it really did kind of pull more so that it looked like it'd almost be a graphic novel cover or a comic cover. So yeah, when you're doing something specific like this, it's really, really helpful to go and look and see how other artists have solved the same problems. There's this huge history of art that's been created, and when you look at that, it helps you solve problems, it helps you see things more creatively and see unique ways that you can solve the same problem. So yeah, I highly recommend looking and seeing what people are doing, seeing what kind of art's created. But yeah, that was really helpful. It gave me kind of an idea of how I wanted the piece to flow. So compositionally, I did want it to be relatively simple, because I wanted him to be very focused and not a lot of other stuff coming in to distract from him. But I did want to have this really large cloak that would kind of give the whole piece a lot of flow to it. So it would lead downward and then back up to his face. So yeah, like I said, it was really, really helpful to look at comic book covers that already existed, so I could see kind of how that treatment was made, because you really do want to, when you're working compositionally, to figure out how to keep the eye moving within the page, and you never really want it to leave off the page. And so yeah, that's what I really wanted to do, was something that felt very contained and compositionally strong. So on this piece, when I started doing the shading, usually I go in and I right away change the layer mode to a different one. Usually it's multiply, or sometimes it's overlay, because even with a darker color with overlay, it can make it darker and appears like a shadow. But when it's a really dark piece like this, a lot of times it's really hard to see exactly where the shadow needs to be, or areas that I thought I'd filled in but it didn't quite reach the edge. And I really do want everything to be as clean and sharp as possible. So a lot of times when I'm working on a darker piece like this, when I'm doing the shadows, I will change the layer mode to something either like, either I'll change it to normal if the color I'm using is actually kind of a mid-tone color, or I'll change it to like hard light, and that makes it really, really sharp and bright. So here I'm kind of using this magenta color for the shadow. So when I changed it to hard light, it made it really easy to see where it was and where it was not. That way I could get really, really clear lines and very specific shadow shapes, and I wasn't missing any patches where I was coloring it in, because that always drives me insane when I notice it after the fact. But that's honestly really, really helpful for me to be able to make sure that I'm getting the shadows placed correctly. And then after I have all the areas that I want in shadow filled in, I'll go back to the layer mode and I'll start experimenting and seeing which one I like it for that particular piece. And yeah, it's really helpful to be able to just clearly see where I'm putting it and then meld it into the piece and make sure that it looks correct. And working on this like laser sword was one of my favorite parts. I love doing things that glow, effects like that. And really the most important thing when you're doing something that glows like that is just to remember that where you want it to be the absolute brightest at the core, you start with a white, and then you can just blend out darker and darker colors around it. So this one was a blue sword, so I went in. I actually kind of work in reverse. Well, I'll start off with a more broad area of where kind of the afterglow is around it, and that's kind of a mid-tone blue. And then sometimes I'll work right on the same layer, sometimes I will create another layer on top, but I'll go back over with a brighter blue that's smaller in diameter, and it's just kind of following the shape of the blade itself. And then I went in on top of that with a white that was also still kind of hazy. And then I finally went in with a very, very sharp, solid brush that I went in and gave it a very solid core to the light. And that way it looks very much like you have this shape and then it's emanating a glow rather than just kind of a hazy glow. And yeah, I love doing effects like that. So that one was really fun. And then it was really fun to be able to go in and add the highlights that that was creating, and to make sure that the shadows that I had already painted were cast in a way that the light source was his laser sword. And that is pretty much it for this piece. As you can see, I did end up changing his cloak to a black color because I like the overall look with the black a little bit better. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch my future art videos, and I'll see you in my next one.